What's up, everybody? JJ with Thrivistry, and I want to talk a little bit about ring rows. Ring rows are not the easiest movement to do in Metcons because they tend to get really sloppy. People tend to get, they start trying to kip and do all these crazy things with their bodies. And we want to make sure that ring rows should stay strict. So just make sure people understand that that's really the intent and that they should just rest or maybe do an easier variation or do smaller sets and things like that. So I do like to use ring rows as a scale sometimes for pull-ups, but it is kind of its own unique movement. It's a horizontal pull, and that's something that we always need to do more of because of the sort of mixed modal or CrossFit style training. We do a lot of pressing, and we want to make sure we're doing pulling too to help prevent shoulder issues from cropping up. And just on that note, I do take that into account with the programming. I make sure that that we do a lot of horizontal pulling in our warm-ups. We do dumbbell rows, ring rows. The rowing on a rowing machine itself is actually a horizontal pull too. So I'm always trying to make sure that people are getting as much horizontal pulling in, but we don't see it show up in Metcons very often because it's just a hard movement to do properly when under kind of a time constraints. So obviously the first thing is when for performance scaling or whatever RX, if you use that term, it's almost always going to be supine rows. So I try to write that in the programming just to make sure people understand that we want to have a box. Now the height of the box, what I like to say, just to keep it simple, is you can say it should be about a foot above the box, right? So if I move this box over, you can see that somewhere around a foot, literally like a foot above the box. I could probably raise these rings up a little bit and it would still work. But that way, and then I'm gonna use a box that's big enough to where when I'm all the way down, I'm either right off the ground, or if I relax, then I can relax and I'm on the floor. And we're going here. Now, what I like to have people do is wrap their hands far around. So it almost becomes like a false grip, but I'm not actually resting on my wrist. But I wanna get that full rotation of the hands here. And then I say try to touch your fingers to your rib cage, right? So that's one way we can judge to see if people are going high enough, right? So we're going to pull all the way back, and then we're going to touch our rib cage to our fingers. That's how I know that we're going high enough on the ring row. We want a full extension. I do want to see the scapula first when we do these, right? So we're starting with those movers first. Now, obviously the subs, right? We're going to do the same thing, but we're just going to do it without the box, right? So we can adjust the height of the rings. For most people, you want to set it for about waist height. And then what I like to have people do is try to stand underneath where the rings are supported, right? So this is kind of the next scale, right? So this would be, intermediate or athletic. So I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go back. And again, fingers wrapped deep, and then I'm pulling up and touching the ribs. I'm touching my fingers to my ribs to make sure I'm hitting full range of motion. Now, sometimes when that becomes an issue, like sometimes people's feet slide or they want to make it a little bit harder, what I found to do is you take a plate and you put a bumper plate on the floor. It's got to be, can't be a 10. It probably has to be at least a 15 or 25. Otherwise, it'll slide. But this will help give them consistency. So they're using the plate in the same angle every single time, but it's also going to prevent them from sliding as much, right? It's going to give them a little bit more friction when they do that. And then of course we can go all the way to the, make sure I'm not going to hit anything, all the way to the super easy one. Now, if you're going to do the super easy one, you may actually need to lower the rings a little bit more, because you can see when I go back here, now it's like I can't pull myself to there. So you may have to adjust the rings a little bit lower to move back. But that's it, guys. There's some ring row options and some concepts around ring rows in Metcons. Things like what is a ring row and how high do you have to go. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.